Hey guys, and thanks for having me at this Lin Design Week. My name is Max or Maximilian. I'm a creative entrepreneur and a problem solver, or at least I think that's what people would describe me as. I'm super grateful to be here with you guys. I was invited a couple of years ago, but I never managed to attend the festival, so I'm glad we can do it, even though it's in this weird context with COVID and all. But I got a ton of questions, so let's dive into the first ones.
Where or when did you start your creative journey?
I think my real creative journey actually started when I was enrolled to a school in Stockholm, Sweden that's called Hyper Island. That's where I met the other co-founders of the pop-up agency, and we basically bonded over our needs. We all came from the creative industry, and all of us had worked a couple of years, but we never really felt that we belonged anywhere or that the industry was for us. So we created a side project based around our needs. So we wanted to work shorter projects, we wanted to work globally, and we didn't want to have anyone who was going to tell us how to do our job. So with all these needs, we created the pop-up agency. And we start off with the why. We're doing this because we want to challenge ourselves and the creative industry. How are we going to go about and do that? Is by solving briefs in 48 hours. And what is it? We are a pop-up agency, a company that pops up around the globe to solve briefs in 48 hours. And when we're popping up, we're maximizing our efforts in one place, and then we fold up and move on to the next. So we basically wanted to apply, a similar philosophy that pop-up museums and pop-up shops were doing, but apply that in an agency context. And during our first year, I think we did over 27 jobs in over 20 countries with a wide variety of clients. Anything from like Coca-Cola in Japan to Facebook in New York to Media Monks in Amsterdam. And that was a blast. And I think the second chapter of my creative journey actually started when we moved the business to London, because during our first year, we were a nomad agency. And then we put down the pin in London, and here's where we actually established the company to become a fully fledged business.
What are you doing today?
Yeah, today I do quite a variety of different projects. I have left the pop-up agency, so now I'm working quite a lot with Hyper Island. I'm helping them develop their online curriculum. I'm the chairman of the AI Business Consultant Program. But I also work quite a lot with Kallhed. I'm the dean of the Roger Hatchall Academy. And I actually think there are a few students of mine that are attending the Slim Design Week. But I'm also doing consultancy, of course. I'm helping quite a lot of brands and agencies with creative direction and creative process. I like to lead big teams and to accelerate or kickstart a campaign or project. But when I'm not doing that, I'm also developing my own products. I got a Reebok shoe coming very, very soon amongst friends. I'm developing my city guide amongst friends. You don't forget to check it out, where I basically use my global community or global network to share secret gems across different cities. So yeah, you can see that I'm all over the place really, but I'm just doing the things that I really enjoy. And I think what ties everything together is creativity. I'm using creativity as my main vehicle to move forward.
What are your interests?
I'm interested in quite a lot of different things, but I think anything that's tied to lifestyle or lifestyle products interests me. And I think I have a very specific set of interests, and I can just geek out over like microscopic details. But I think that's what me and my friends can rant about for hours and hours and hours. And I think when I'm procrastinating, I spend a lot of time on eBay and Grailed and Vestiaire just to try to hunt down fashion bargains. I think I'm getting pretty good at it.
What projects are you currently working on?
Yes, I work on quite a few different projects. I'm designing this year's class for the Roger Hatchall Academy in Cannes. I'm designing the second year of the AI Business Consultant Program at Hyper Island. I'm also doing a bit of creative direction for a few companies. I can't really talk about those gigs as of yet, but you're probably gonna see the campaigns roll out this summer. So I'm doing all of that, but when I have some time over, I really try to forge and evolve my Among Strengths platform as well. So once again, I do bits and bobs here and there, but once again, what ties it together is creativity.
What is your biggest failure?
I think I failed quite a lot, to be honest. I think that because my whole approach to failure is that I like to learn from my failures and hopefully not repeat the same failures again and again. But I think one of my biggest failures was when we worked for a startup in Berlin. And this was in the early days of the pop-up agency. And we didn't really understand how few resources they had and how much they actually gambled to bring us on board to help them solve their problems. A few weeks before that, we had worked for a big agency who had all the resources to implement all the ideas that we came up with. But all of a sudden, we are in Berlin with a tiny startup who basically were bankrupt, who didn't have any resources, and their last resort was for us to help them out of their, for lack of a better word, misery. And we completely just misjudged their needs and their context. And I think I've learned so much from that. First of all, I learned that it's so important to align with the client. But second of all, it's even more important to embrace yourself with the client context when you work with them. So, I don't think I fail as much anymore because I did a lot of failures earlier on in my early years of my career. But I've learned from them, and I constantly reflect on my failures to try to become a better professional and a person as well.
What's the hardest part with your job?
I think the hardest part with my job is to align everyone, to make sure that we're driving in the same direction, or that all stakeholders that I'm working with are aiming for the same goal. Because what often happens is that I work with a creative department, I work with marketing department, and I might be working with a legal department as well as design department. And how can I make sure that all of these people aim for the same goal, that all of these people have the same intentions? So what I try to do is always try to assemble everyone to before we even start the creative process, because what often happens is as well in the creative industry, and I think you can all relate to this, that as soon as you're given a brief, you start coming up with solutions immediately. And you often forget to align, what are we actually going to do here? Why are we generating these ideas? And do we even agree that this is the right direction for us? Or should we challenge the brief? So I think what I always try to do is to align everyone to make sure that we basically sign a fictional contract before we even start working. So this is what we're going to agree on, and this is what we're going to use as our North Star throughout the entire project. And what often happens with that is that you save a lot of time in the end.
How was your job affected by COVID?
To be completely honest, my job has probably benefited from the current situation. I'm not traveling as much as I used to. I used to travel about 150 days a year, but now I'm forced to work from home. But I had to, change some of my processes and methods to fit into a digital context. But other than that, I think I've really enjoyed the current state to just be home, to reflect more on the ways I work, to really rethink how to apply my processes into a remote work setting, as well as knowing how to do it in a physical work setting. So now I can do both of them, and I think that's just gonna help my business grow and evolve even further. So the travel is probably one of the downsides, but on the contrary, my business have grown quite a lot with the pandemic.
Why did you decide to solve briefs within 48 hours?
This is a question I used to get a lot when I was working with the pop-up agency, but we had only the weekends off to do work when we were studying at Hyper Island, and the weekends equals 48 hours. And I think 48 hours is actually the ultimate time frame to work around when you are solving a problem, because it's enable you to be focused throughout. the 2 days, or at least with the methods that we're using. And I often ask people, like, when was the last time you focused on one thing and one thing only for 2 straight days? Yeah, I guess you haven't done that in a while, have you? Because you don't do that anymore. You always multitask, you do like 10 things at once, you have meetings that disrupts the workflow, and you have to take phone calls, emails. But when we were solving briefs in 48 hours, we were dedicated to one thing only and completely focused on that thing, as well as having methods that allowed us to be focused. So I think those things in combination create the magic sauce.
How do you stay motivated?
I think, of course, it's hard to stay motivated sometimes, especially when the world is shit, like it's been the past year. But I think the people around me really, really motivates me. I'm so fortunate to have a great network of fantastic people. And, I'm often really motivated when I see other people thrive and grow as well. So, I think a big motivation for me is to see people evolve and become better at their profession or as a human being. And I think it's so rewarding to see like human development, and that's something that I really thrive off on.
What is your source of inspiration and what gives you energy?
I think, I get inspired by so many different things as well. I can find inspiration in fashion, or, if I just read an article about, some innovation of some sort. It doesn't really have to be related to my industry, but I think what often inspires me is when people challenge a convention, or, thinking outside of the box, even if there's no like business gain from it. I think it's cool to see when people are actually really believing in something. I think that really inspires me. In everything I do, I try to challenge the conventions a little bit, and I always try to rethink or to remodel things. And sometimes things are perfect, and then I guess I don't have to touch them. But if there are things that I think could be evolved or could transform, then just go for it. So I'm just inspired by, innovation in general and people who believe in their ideas.
What would you say to young designers and marketing students?
I think my 2 cents, after been ranting now for almost 15 minutes, is that if you don't feel that you belong anywhere, if you feel that there's no context for you, or there's no company or agency or industry that can offer the context that you want, then I think it's time for you to create it yourself. Because the beautiful thing with creativity is there are no rights and wrongs on how to apply it. As long as you provide clear value for the people you're selling your products to, and that you're happy. I felt that we had, it took quite a long time for us to be a profitable business with the pop-up agency. But even before that, we were so dedicated to do what we were doing because we had created and branched out a little field for ourselves. And I think it's time for you guys to do that as well. We are so fortunate to be working in an industry that can still be shaped and evolved and transformed. So, it's time for you guys to go out there and make a difference. But yeah, that's it for me. And if you have any further questions, don't forget to ask Eduardo or anyone for my details. I'm both on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and you probably will get my email as well. And if you ever come to London, don't be a stranger. I'm here for you guys. See ya. Peace out.